So we're thinking about froth, or thinking through froth. And although froth is, in a sense, we might all have a mental picture of froth, I want to push it and try to extend its presence into sort of actual areas, into metaphorical areas, and sort of track the ways in which it's been thought about in the contexts of markets, of space, of pollution, and of froth as some kind of triviality, both a familiar and domestic triviality, but also we, we say within English something is just froth. It's useless, worthless. And I want to persuade you that there are interconnections between all these different kinds of froth, and that again, like fog and foam, this is a turbid media that's a kind of exemplary medium of the contemporary age. So we both think about it and through it and with it, and it works back on our thinking in some kind of way. And I also stretch it into the notion of ether, which was part of the reading for this week, and then I stretch that ether into thinking about Ethereum and the non-fungible tokens, and the new currency, and that relationship to art. So I'm not sure how far we'll go with that, but that is something I wanted to set up, and I'm using the piece by Geraldine Juarez to think a little about that. So, and I suppose I thought ether could sit in this exploration, because for me it's another version of the cloud in both its iterations. So it's the name ether is the name for something airy and mobile and magical, invisibly productive, and we can look more closely at this ether wind, ether as the substance that is thought to fill the world and all of space. Then it becomes kind of instrumentalized. Ether becomes a mechanism through which radio comes to be invented, and after which radio is named in the early days. But in our epoch, ether as it in relation to cryptocurrency, enjoys its relationship to all of that airiness and fuzziness and vagueness and immateriality, while, as Juarez's work amongst others puts it, while also being extremely dirty work, dirty business, product of a mining that generates, we hear, a network annual consumption of energy equivalent to that of Hong Kong or Iraq, and which has its side effects or its outputs in the generation of pollution and excessive carbon emissions and so on. So that's, an actuality, something really happening in our world, and we could call it the sort of froth of a new assetization. And what I want to argue, and how I want to tie these things together eventually, is to say that if that's a kind of emblem, I suppose, of immaterial production in some way that aspires to be economy, it's complicit in the distributed production of industrial froths and foams that are increasingly plaguing the world. So I'm sort of using, just as I did with fog, and as I will do with foam and other materials, as I have done with liquid crystals, and maybe in some ways as I have done with dyes, I want to think about froth as a kind of dialectical image, this notion from Benjamin, Walter Benjamin, a dialectical image of something present before us that concentrates many of the contradictions of the moment, many of the dangers, I suppose, or destructive energies of the moment.